Yay. All right. Hello, James Waterman.
Hey, Chrysanthe.
Are you excited to talk about Bad Batch music?
I'm so excited. I'm so excited that we have a new Star Wars show or anything that came out this week to just talk about and obsess about.
I'm
It feels like forever that the Mandalorian last season was here, and now we got some new stuff.
It really does, and I think like having a new show is an opportunity to um I don't know, jump on it fresh sort of, like rather than having to do so much catch up later. So, yeah, I'm really glad that we're doing this stream.
Yeah.
If you're joining us or watching the replay, we are going to do music and sound commentary on The Bad Batch, Season 1, Episode 1, Aftermath, but also just like make some predictions and give some thoughts about the series as a whole and what we expect or hope for, or, you know, uh, even what we don't hope for but predict will happen for the rest of the season, musically, soundly. Um, if you are new to this channel, that's totally cool. This is like a Star Wars music channel. The main show is a podcast, Star Wars Music Minute, and this season we're going through The Last Jedi, 5 minutes at a time. But now we're doing Bad Batch. So Bad Batch, Season 1, Episode 1. Oh yeah, last thing I'll say is because it's so hard to talk about music, we'll play examples whenever possible, or like at least hum things and try to give each other, so we know what so I know what you're talking about, James. You know what I'm talking about, just to give us like a leg to stand on, so we're not just like that note that went like.
And that one scene
Yeah,
where it was like that one guy was saying that one thing while that happened. Yeah.
And there's like I have a 3-pronged agenda for today. So we will share our like favorite sound design moments, or just interesting sound design that we noticed with timestamps, and of course talk about music moments, and then we will also just make our predictions and wishes for the season, and I will just write those down as we go along. So yeah.
And I'll try to match Chrysanthe's shirts every time I'm on here as best as I can.
It was a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll let you kick it off. James, what did you think overall of the music?
Of the music. I love this show for already just because it feels like such a natural continuation and homage to Clone Wars. I mean, not homage is probably a too vague of a word, considering it's essentially the same animation, same team, same everything. So it really does feel like just the next season of Clone Wars, but it's focused on one particular group of characters. So what I love about the sound already is that it already feels familiar, but in the same way,
and it starts out like with that same distinct voice, which I think just like sends you back into the like Clone Wars mentality of the show.
Yeah.
We're talking about like the radio commentator voice.
The radio commentary voice, and maybe I in case I'm not correct about this, I believe that the voiceover artist that does those voiceovers had a medical issue recently and is possibly still recovering, I believe. So just want to throw some good vibes out for that person. This might be possibly the last time we hear him. So I just want to throw some quick good wishes and vibes out for him. So yeah, I mean that whole first like news segment, it feels like, hey, and the burning down of the what do you call it, the title of Bad into Bad Batch.
Yeah, so it says the Clone Wars, and then it the flames burn it up, and it turns into the Bad Batch.
So I love it already because it feels like Clone Wars. In fact, like as we go through this episode, there's so much like just allusion to old Clone Wars themes for characters and planets, etc. But there's also like a very distinct Bad Batch feel to it already. Specifically those characters, and the one of the textures I've noticed a lot that keeps coming in and out are some of the synthesizer sounds, the low synthesizer sounds, and that feels like it's very that group of characters,
Also, the Bad Batch theme, which is a track in the season 7 Clone Wars soundtrack. That that has a synth in it, right?
Exactly. Right after the
So-
main theme statement, it goes into that kind of like low brassy bassy synth, and that instrument keeps reappearing throughout the
Yeah.
episode, and it kind of feels like that's the underlying texture of this group of people. Which I got a couple thoughts on that because that kind of brings us into this kind of like 80s feel to it, 80s action feel, which is very much what the Bad Batch is
that
kind of.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection, but I'm not familiar.
Well, the Bad Batch is the A-Team, right? That's like what they are, right? They're basically the Star Wars A-Team,
Is
right?
that an 80s thing?
Yeah, Mr. T and
I
all
don't
the. So they feel very they feel like that underlying like synthy like Lethal Weapon. I know Lethal Weapon
get
is
what you're
like
saying.
lady. Yeah.
To me, they feel like, well, I will say going into it, I had a different perception of what they were than after watching it.
Totally.
Like I went into it being like worried that it would be too like superhero-y and too much like, oh, here's the really great genetically engineered super people. Like I don't tend, well, but I don't love like superhero movies and things like that.
You don't speak Marvel, as you've said.
I don't speak Marvel. But it was a lot more like toned down, like much more, not toned down, but like I think there was a lot more nuance to the characters. And also it helps that I think musically it was less bombastic than Clone Wars. And I think for me that helped a lot too. There was a lot more variety in the music, but not in as like broad of strokes, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's more psychological than I'm probably, and more emotional than
Like
I might have anticipated.
It felt more purposefully scored than Clone
Yeah.
Wars.
Especially going back, and I'm glad that like this is potentially something that's going to happen every week. Is I either get to be here or watch these live streams, breaking this thing down week by week. Because just as an exercise preparing to talk today, it's just you realize that exact fact, which everything feels so purposeful already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Bad Batch theme, which is in so many different ways, it's like no. Right. I feel like
And I think it
it's like
starts
in a
out in
different
C.
key.
I think it starts out in C minor, but I think it ends up in D, right?
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
like clearly it's the main theme, so it's going to be sliced and diced and transposed in all different ways throughout. But I think
Yeah.
you're right. The beginning is like, and I like when the strings have a moment. But I feel like it's super super fast at the beginning. Like it comes in at around the 3-minute mark, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like, like it was really like frantic, which is fitting, but it is something I noticed.
Yeah, and actually they do that again later on during the training sequence. They kind of speed it up right towards the end once they kind of come into their own as well. But yeah, that's obvious. It just kind of rolls. You see that giant boulder rolling down the hill, and then it just kind of kicks in, right? And then we've got our heroes on screen.
Question: Do you think this is do you think this was all live orchestra?
No, I think. I mean, I'd love to be proved wrong because I'd love to hear about the scoring of this, but I feel like most of this is in the can.
Really?
Right? I feel like I remember hearing about that for Clone Wars at least, and maybe they've got a bigger budget and they've got more opportunities.
Clone Wars and Rebels, definitely. I think it sounded mostly virtual.
I mean, I will say, but here's the other thing: is like this score is being done in 2020, 2021, where the sample libraries are like already infinitely better than they were, back in 2000, whatever, when the Clone Wars was first being scored, right? So you got to imagine that it's probably even harder for us to tell whether it's real or not nowadays.
That's true, but there are some gives. There are some gives, I think.
No, I'm sure like I love to, especially being a string player, I'm sure you've just got it. But oftentimes, especially
I feel bad for you.
my
You're
dummy
a drummer.
drumming ear is just like, those sound like real string players. And then someone's like, oh, that's just, what's the word? East-West, library. I'm like, oh, okay, oops.
Well, drums were like the first thing to be done really well electronically, probably. So.
Yeah. It's true. We take stick, hit. Right? And try to do it the same every time. So it's pretty easy to capture that. I'm just being self-deprecating, but
yeah, of course. So there's more to it than that.
But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to look into it. To me, I think there's definitely if it's not completely VSTs, I think there's definitely some padded strings in there of some VSTs. There might be like a handful of like real violins and cellos in there, but I'm sure that he filled it up with VSTs. Because I can't imagine these animation budgets are very big, right? Like I can't imagine that they would have enough to be able to score a 16-episode show with a full orchestra. That seems like a lot on what these budgets typically fall out.
I'm gonna go out on a limb, and
yeah.
I am going to, if we had to guess, because I couldn't find any information online definitively. I think they used a live orchestra for
the whole thing.
I don't know about the whole thing, but at least for the opening for this theme, I think.
Sure. I buy it. We should figure out if any of our friends are on this thing.
I know. I was gonna say, like, I just don't like go on Facebook very much,
right?
or that type of thing. So I would have missed any posts from friends being like, I played on this. And I'm sorry if I missed that. That would have been good to check, but Facebook gives me just too much anxiety.
Right.
Yeah, if you're a friend who I would love, please let me know if you played on this.
Well, that's the other thing is production for this, I imagine, happened in the last year, right?
Yeah.
Like they finished things, and then it must have been during COVID. So who did they get to come in and record a full orchestra during COVID in Burbank, right? Right? Like, I don't know. I have a lot of questions about it.
Yeah. I mean, they could have recorded kind of late and spaced out in like sections, or I don't know. This is all speculation, but
right. Yeah, I have no idea.
You know, I will say though, what I hope didn't happen is like outsourcing it to. Oh. Yeah, I hope that. If it was
Likewise.
recorded by Live Strings, I hope that it was recorded in LA.
Yeah. Likewise.
Yeah. But anyway, how did we? Oh, I will say, because I listened to the Clone Wars Bad Batch track, and that sounds extremely virtual to me, and this sounded different. So I don't know.
Yeah. I agree. I agree that the score, like just the performance and recording, is fantastic, and the mix is wonderful. Especially when kind of really devoting a lot of attention to it, you just start to notice the sound design is really great throughout the whole episode.
What were your what are some of your favorite sound design moments?
Well, part of me just has a stupid nostalgia for like prequel era sounds. So all the Republic clone ship sounds, that sound of the ships, the kind of the, what's the word?
Like, when is that?
So it's all throughout this particular scene.
Like at the beginning. Like at the beginning.
In the beginning, you can just hear it throughout the opening battle. Especially when the battle ends, you start to hear the Republic ships. Then anytime they're pulling into Camino, just those sounds of those Republic cruisers. We haven't heard them, right? We haven't really heard them in, I guess since Clone Wars season 7, but it's just it's a nice familiar sound just to hear the sound world. The prequels sound different than the other trilogies. Every trilogy has these definitive sounds of their spaceships, and that Republic cruiser sound is just really it brings me back. So that was a big moment. The other thing I love is, maybe it's not, the word for it isn't necessarily sound design, but it just D. Bradley Baker's
his
performance for all 5 of the clone or the Bad Batch. They're so unique, and you can tell that who they are when they're speaking. It's the same voice, but they also sound like they're clones of they sound like they're essentially the clones of the Django clones, right? And it's just, obviously with the accent, but there's just, yeah, he did an amazing job to really define all the different characters. Actually, there's a great interview with him that came out recently since the premiere where he breaks down the character of each
Ooh,
Bad Batch
that's
member.
Awesome. That's really cool. I'll have to see that. One sound that I like that I'm gonna start keeping tabs on is Hunter's knife. The first time I noticed it was at about 17 minutes in. I should write this down. About 17 minutes in, he's like scoring the date, on the wall. He's like, what's it called? Like drawing lines to tally
To
marks.
mark their the tally marks, yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like the tail end of that knife sound is really surprising. I don't know how else to describe it. It is like an extra flourish at the end of it. And it also, I'm not sure if it's like realistic, but it is, yeah, you'll have to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, I definitely do. Just on a separate thought, there's a lot of knife work in this whole episode. Like there's something with the group and their knives. There's a number of moments, like very distinct knife moments in this episode.
Another
There's
one
the
I wrote
carving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one was at 4:41 when Hunter flips his knife. It's just like
Right. And they make a point of like showing when he pulls it out. Maybe there's
It's
something
like
going to happen with a knife in this show. I'm just gonna go ahead. We're gonna talk about predictions for this show.
Okay.
I predict something significant will happen with a knife. Because they made such a big deal. They've highlighted. Okay, and then there's the crosshair moment, because it was really funny to watch the fan reactions to the trailer months ago. I know that you hadn't watched it yet because you were trying to stay unspoiled.
Yes.
But for nuts like me that
I have not watched a single trailer reaction.
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily I was hearing people's comments on forums and stuff, but they were talking about what it appeared to be in the trailers, that one scene where Crosshair shoots the knife, right? Like he asks Wrecker to throw his knife up and then he shoots it into him. Somebody was like, before that was clarified in the episode of what was going on there, it appears that he had a gun that could shoot a knife out of it. That's what it looked like in the trailer. So people are like, that's such a Star Wars moment. Like that makes zero sense that they would have a gun that like spins out a knife out of it. But I believe it. But it turns out it was only slightly less ridiculous. In reality. But that's another knife moment, right? You're like, hey, Wrecker, your knife, throw it up, and he shoots it into the... I thought that was... My inner 12-year-old was very excited about that moment. But there's a knife thing going on in this show, for sure.
Yeah.
I buy it.
Yeah, so a knife thing, which will have a corresponding sound to it, clearly, so it fits. Another sound design... what are those ties at like 14 minutes in that fly in? Oh my God, they sound amazing.
14 minutes. What's going on at that point?
It's not TIE Defenders. It's like TIE. Can't remember.
Are there TIE fighters even in existence at this point?
What am I thinking?
Oh yeah, because they're coming in and getting they're Republic ships, but they're like Republic they're kind of like the what the Emperor flies in. Yeah, they're being escorted, right? They're being escorted into Camino, right? And they make that remark about this being new and different, that they like have to check in before they come to Camino, right?
Yeah. Another thing is, let's see. When I wrote, Kaminoan voices are so creepily peaceful and mellifluous. That's in my notes. It's true. It's true. Kaminoan voices are creepy and very flowing.
Yeah.
Almost
Thrawn-like. There's a.
I can see that.
Yeah, there's a similarity between his creepy little demeanor and the Kaminoans.
I don't think Thrawn has a creepy demeanor. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. At 34:50, there's another knife sound. It's a spin. It's another spin. So, God, there's so many knife sounds.
That's what I'm saying. There's a knife thing. There's a knife thing. Something going on.
Another sound, like another favorite sound was like all the scanning beeps for like when they're looking at their radar for things. I mean, that's going to be in any Star Wars. When you're looking at a screen, you're going to get like a bunch of little bleeps and bloops. And I just always like hearing those. One day I should like watch that really slow and see like, make sure that the beeps line up when they press in the right place. But
Wouldn't it be a dream job to just line up beeps with animated button pushes?
No.
Right? Maybe there's a certain kind of person that wants to do that all day.
I think I would like to design the beeps, but not line it up.
Okay, you design the beeps. I'll line them up with the buttons.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
It's a deal.
Another moment for sound design for me was the Emperor's speech.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's the Revenge of the Sith audio. They didn't re-record it.
Oh, they didn't re-record it?
No, I went back and forth between Revenge of the Sith and one tab and the other, and it's the same audio, but they bring it through a filter to make it sound like it's being broadcast, right? But same. It's basically Ian McDiarmid from Revenge of the Sith. But there is like a moment I feel like that isn't. There's like some speech added that wasn't in Revenge of the Sith. I'd have to go back and I think there's a couple pieces of text that are not in Revenge of the Sith that he says. Oh, why didn't I write it down? I would love for anyone that watches this video to go rewatch that and see if there's like maybe one line that the Emperor says in the Bad Batch that he didn't say in the Revenge of the Sith. So maybe it's like extra footage from Revenge of the Sith that they added to the speech. Might be interesting to find that out.
That is cool. That's not even what I was. Well, what I really appreciated was how much reverb is on the Emperor's voice. Like, this is when we really get the first like sound of the Empire, which is like a big like a big booming voice in a big vacuous room, and it's such a specific sound treatment. It's a specific like that is a big echo.
It's interesting. It's and then it kicks in with the Imperial March after this scene, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first time we've heard that in the show. I imagine we'll hear it a number of times again. But yeah, it's really interesting. This is a big moment, and it's interesting to see the different reactions by the clones. And like I said, I watched back and forth the Revenge of the Sith to see times that they were cheering, times they weren't. It was interesting to see also the clones' reaction to all the cheering in the room happening at that moment, which was really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's like a sound that we're gonna hear so much more, like by going to. I mean, like in the next episodes. So, just chronologically speaking. But the reverb and the echo of the room is just such a Imperial / First Order type of thing.
Right.
Like this. Wait, can you hear that? I don't know.
Not yet.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, in the Last Jedi, I've been kind of obsessed with the reverb of rooms, and it happens when like Snoke speaks too.
Oh yeah.
But it's like it's the type of sound environment that doesn't invite receiving questions, if that makes sense. Like
it's basically this is
when you hear one person in a room
it's
that
dominating.
big, and there's like that huge echo, which indicates that the room is big, and it indicates that like there's not that much between, like there's not much else in between, or that the person speaking is like on a much higher level, so it's not like being absorbed by all the bodies in front of it. It just is like, who are you talking to? You're talking to this big expanse, and not really looking for comments.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see the Bad Batch be this, both visual and just, within the story, be this one group that is outside. They haven't drank the Kool-Aid, right? They're not brainwashed by like everybody else. So it was interesting to watch that scene through their perspective, to see all this huge, like you said, there's this one voice, everybody else is buying it except for them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at that.
What I found interesting, James, is the moment when they're having their like asides, like while the Emperor is talking and the other clones, I guess, pre-stormtroopers, the other clones are like cheering and everything. The clones seem to like their side conversation is like seems mixed in a completely different way. Like it's not like it was surprised me how loud they spoke to one another in that room. So it was almost like they had headphones on or like secret walkie-talkies or something. Because I was like, oh my gosh, be quiet. Like other people will hear you.
Yeah, shut up. They're gonna hear you, right?
Yeah, like don't talk so loud.
And that's one of those moments where, in Star Wars especially, where obviously the reason why they're speaking that loud is so that the audience can can digest the dialogue, But it makes especially when you're like digesting canon, you're like, okay, well, why? Like what does the sound like in that room where they can speak loud enough where they won't be heard, right? And it just shows that they can probably, it's just they feel like this big, like they're just flies on the wall in that moment. Like it's like there's such a huge room that they almost can go unnoticed and speak to each other.
Yeah, I think I think it's interesting to like pay attention to which sound design choices seem diegetic, so to speak, like seem like representations of the world that we're seeing versus clearly narrative devices and things, not narrative but like just things for the audience, just practical things.
Right.
There's a bit of both. There's always a bit of both.
And especially in these animated shows, it's interesting to see how some of the music sometimes becomes diegetic, right? Like the Imperial March in Rebels becomes the actual anthem for the Empire that's being played out loud, and you're like, oh, I guess like John Williams, some version of like propaganda John Williams exists in Star Wars universe, right?
Yes. After the Imperial March, I wrote down in my notes, and I'm not sure if it is this yet, but does Tarkin have new music? Does Tarkin have music?
I was wondering myself, because there's this like big thing that happens with him. I wrote the same thing down maybe too. Like where does this happen? This is like,
it's about 21:45.
Okay. And I wrote down, are you talking about this?
Maybe.
Yeah. I was like, that is a really like huge statement of a theme, and it never comes back.
What instrument was it on? Was it brass?
It was like it was like low brass, right?
Yeah, okay.
And maybe I should have played that down the octave, right? Like.
It's funny. It like almost sounds like the Emperor's, but not.
Right. Oh yeah, kind of. Yeah. I'm curious if that'll come back, because obviously Tarkin's going to be some type of villain in this show. And I don't know if he's obviously for once Tarkin's going to be the villain. No, I meant like he might be like the main, villain in this show. Maybe.
I can see that.
He might be the one chasing him down, right? Or at least being people have been like, what's the word? Predicting that Vader's like obvious. Like anytime they make content between 3 and 4, it's like, oh, where can we put Vader in this thing, right? So people think he's going to be in this show, which he very well might be, but Tarkin might have a bigger role in this show than he has in other stuff. So I'm curious if they're going to give him more thematic content.
Yeah. There is, when Omega has music, clearly. She has music. You said you weren't sure what it was.
I couldn't figure out what the actual theme was. I did notice that there is this kind of like D major to like E major thing going on, and I noticed that her instrument is the harp. Is what I've noticed.
I noticed that her instrument was the horns.
Oh, and that was the second that I was going to say.
Okay.
French horn seems to be the melodic material, and then the harp seems to be the texture. Because every scene that she's in, or like really featured, there's some type of harp motif going on somewhere. I've noticed. It seems to be her texture, her underlying, and there seems to be like a celesta or something like that as well, like belly dreamy tones. But yeah, I'm curious. I was going to ask you, did you notice a theme for her? Because I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, I definitely did. It was like.
Play that one more time.
Okay. I wonder if like I
If
should
you
play
if
it
you
lower because. Okay, I'll try to play it with more articulation than it was. Okay. It reminded me of like Dvorak.
Yeah.
And it was like very open chords, like. Very like open French horn, New World Symphony type of harmonies. It sounds, of a Lydian tonality, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was noticing. There was that kind of right that tritone that it kind of goes up to in the second chord, which is really, it makes it seem dreamy and mysterious, right? And that's kind of who she is, right?
Well, keep in mind. Well, let's. Omega's theme. Okay. Where else do we hear Lydian in Star Wars? Okay.
We're probably thinking the same thing.
There's many. This is one. Okay, that's young Anakin.
It's Yoda's theme. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yoda.
Yeah.
Where else do we hear it? We actually hear.
The what's the canto bite, right? Rose,
theme,
right? Yeah.
So the point is, like, the theme clearly fits into a musical language, at least established by John Williams, of sort of like like a little bit optimistic, a little bit like maybe whimsical, but maybe like, I mean, young Anakin, Yoda, and Rose, they all have a sort of like youthfulness and a sort of like, even Yoda, has a youthfulness and just like an open mind and all this stuff.
Well, what Yoda has is the Force.
That too.
And I've got many thoughts on Omega and going forward. I guess I don't have many thoughts other than I think she has the Force.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that's my one thought I have.
And I guess the music I feel supports that.
Right.
Or
hey,
like,
quick. Oh no, please. Yeah, continue. I got one little thought though. Well,
Dear.
my thought is just this is a non-musical thing, but I was curious about this. Like, Hunter's ability apparently is his like sensibility, right, or his like perception. Like, remember, he's the one where he's walking forward and he goes, "We're being followed," and then he turns around and Omega's right there, right? And that's like his thing. Like he's a hunter. He's like, that's his little. But like, what's in Star Wars? What's the difference between like having those types of sensibilities and just being force sensitive? Like, isn't that just mean that Hunter's like slightly force sensitive? This is my thought. Like, can you have like really good like instincts like that and basically have some sense of like, what's the word? Psychic abilities like that without just basically having the Force? So my curiosity is.
I think so for sure.
And that's what brings me to Omega, because she seems to have, and it's adorable, this whole episode where she's basically miming everything he's doing constantly. And there's obviously a very like deep connection between those two. So I'm very curious if there's some type of Force connection as well.
Well, my personal take on that is, I think the Force flows through everyone. Like everyone. I think everyone has the Force.
Right.
And so that's how I feel. But like, I don't think you have the force or don't. I just think
Sure.
so. Maybe like I think maybe Hunter, yeah, sure. Maybe he can channel the force in that perceptive way. Maybe, or maybe he's genetically modified to have like really strong like um, auditory like receptor like hearing and really strong like senses like so on a sensory level
Gotcha.
being able to do that like a hunter like like a cat or whatever will have more like stronger abilities just like baseline can detect more. So like I think of maybe Hunter has like the kind of vision where he can see like 5 more colors than everyone else or something. I don't know.
God,
I mean,
totally.
I don't
hear
know.
that.
I don't have answers. This is just my,
No, I hear that. I
Yeah.
buy that. But it's, I mean, Omega like straight up says to Crosshair later on, like, I know what you're gonna do, right? And it's okay. So to me, it's like I've seen a couple people, guessing online. Oh, maybe that's significant. I'm like, I guess that's
I
significant.
think it could be. I think it might be significant, and I think
Yeah.
if I had to guess, it probably will be. But if this weren't a debate, it didn't actually make me like really think twice when I watched the episode. That didn't
Sure.
make me think force sensitive. It made me think, yeah, it made me think perceptive.
Perceptive.
Like
And that's a positive. I mean, she is a
I think
medical
Star Wars will
assistant,
go
right?
that. I think Star Wars will probably throw in force
Yeah.
for her, but I also just think. I mean, I don't know. I kind of relate to that a little bit. Like I just being perceptive, and she seems like that. I don't know.
She does. And like I said, I mean, she's her whole job up until this point has kind of been to tending to the clones, right? The medical needs of the clones, right? So it's definitely part of her perceptive nature to kind of pick up on what people are feeling and thinking and about to do. So it's possible, yeah. But I think you're it's spot on with all those connection to all those different themes with her theme there.
It reminded. Do you know what New World Symphony thing I'm thinking of? It's like on the tip of my tongue. It's like maybe I'm just literally thinking of. I don't know. It's like the way.
Yeah,
just
I'm
keep
not
an
sure.
eye, keep an ear out for the next. It's this part.
That kind of sounds like Jupiter.
I think that.
Bum 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 bum. No, I'm sorry, that's not Jupiter. That's another Holst piece. It's Holst, but it's bum 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 dum dum bum bum.
Play it on the piano.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
That's Jupiter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's. So maybe it's this. Okay. It's not. I can't. Okay. It's somewhere in there. I get what you're saying. It's just that sequence of notes.
I'm just like a huge Jupiter Holst fan, so that I
Me too.
I can kind of hear it all the time and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, her theme, it's on notice for me. I look forward to seeing how it develops.
Yeah. Likewise. And listen for that harp. I'm telling you, it's there every time.
No, I
every
heard it.
time.
I heard it. Actually,
Okay, cool.
the last time it happened, I wrote. Let's see. It reminded me of Cezanne. It reminded me at 5650, the steady harp flux reminded me of Dance Macabre.
Ooh, okay.
You know how like at the beginning of Dance Macabre, it's like it starts basically with just steady harp plucks, and that reminded me of that. Let's see. Another thing. What's some other music? Okay, the Bad Batch.
Notice it on Onderon. I don't know.
Oh, Saw.
Yeah, well, the whole Onderon sound with the guitar. And the themes. I just went back to the episode, which is right on season 5, episode 2 of the Clone Wars at 5 minutes and 3 seconds. So you can go and check that. It's the same themes and sound and guitar themes as that are kicking in before they even meet Saw. Like when they've arrived on the planet and the Bad Batch is getting into position, scouting them out. That music is playing that whole time. So if somebody was like really cued in, really knew those.
Where is it? Clone Wars.
It's Clone Wars season 5, episode 2. 5 minutes and 3 seconds. And
that's when we hear Saw's music or Onderon.
I'm not sure if it's Saw's music or it's just the Onderon music, right? Okay. But this is at 4:41:36 in the Bad Batch episode.
That early?
Yeah, because that's when they're on Onderon scouting out the
4:41:36.
Oh, 41:36.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, remember the first 4 minutes when they go back to Onderon? So this whole thing.
10 minutes, almost.
Yeah, he just basically, I don't know if he just completely lifts that from his previous score in Clone Wars or if he kind of reorchestrates it a little bit, but it's essentially the same.
How does it go?
Here's the thing: is I couldn't sing it to you, but it's essentially it's strings and there's like plucked guitar the whole time. It sounds almost like Spanish or
the nylon guitar plucks.
Nylon guitar plucks, right?
Yeah.
So that's the huge thing.
Who do you think played that guitar?
Maybe Chuck Gloria, maybe. No. We have a friend named Chuck Gloria.
I know.
Plays guitar.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking to our audience who is like, who the hell is
I'm like,
are you talking about?
I know.
I probably native instruments, honestly. I don't know.
You don't think it was just Kevin Kiner?
I don't know. What's his instrument? Do you know?
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I could definitely.
Sheet for these episodes. That would be cool.
But it's there. And here's the thing, like I said, like this happens before you even meet Saw. So I mean, obviously the viewer that knows anything about Onderon, like that won't be found familiar, but maybe you didn't catch it. You're there, at least you're hearing the sounds like, oh, okay, this is what it's about. It kind of giving you some foreshadowing about what's about.
The nylon guitar plucks we don't hear very often in Star Wars.
There's Mandalorian.
I was gonna say the only other time I like really remember it is from Mandalorian, the episode
from the
season 1, episode 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, when they're in the village, right?
Omera's place.
Yeah. By the way, Biomes that just came out on Disney Plus. There's like a whole shot. It's basically just like planet Earth for Star Wars, and They do like a 6-minute overhead shot of just the village, just so you can look at the village.
I hope, hopefully with that nylon guitar music.
I think they do. I think they do have
a little bit of that in there. That's so funny. So Saw's music has like glissandi in them, like kind of like crying.
Yeah. I noticed that the violin sound,
solo.
Right?
Yeah, it's like that type of thing. That type of thing. It's like a very sorrowful, like crying type of solo. That had to have been a real violin. That's really hard to do.
No, I'm sure that was a real
It was
player.
maybe a viola, actually, because it went lower than or it was either scordatura violin or like viola. And then the string section sort of picks up from there. Like Saw's music is very it's very atmospheric. And this is also when we get some like vocals too. Like,
Yeah, the choir comes in here. I've got.
Yeah.
I noticed. It's really interesting. I also noticed that this little violin type of texture comes back when they get captured upon arrival back on Kamino, which is interesting because he says right when this that little it goes to the A sharp, G sharp, A. Saw says, I wonder what else they're lying about, he says. And then they arrive back on Camino, and then basically we get F sharp, G, A sharp, same texture, possibly the same instrument. And it seemed like a callback saying like, oh, yep, Saw was right. You know, you got captured upon arrival, which I thought was kind of interesting. I got some timestamps for that too. So this is, you first hear the violin at 4:45.
Let's do the time. Let's recap the timestamps at the end so I can.
Cool. Yeah.
So I can write them.
Yeah.
Down.
Remind me.
I will.
Totally. Yeah.
So, a really funny part, I think, is, well, okay. First, I'm just gonna say I think Saw Gerrera is animated a little bit too light skinned, but
Well, similarly with Kanan too. Did you notice Caleb is much darker skinned in Rebels, and he's significantly lighter as a kid here.
The ambient. Okay, wait. Okay, the funny thing, which this is probably not it, but you know, my ears just can't not hear a potential Thrawn reference. I feel like at 35, 32, here we get like the Bad Batch. This is when, like the Bad Batch, I think this is when like Tarkin is like watching them, how great they are. And they're like, you know, kicking ass, and we're getting the Bad Batch theme really fast.
Yeah.
And I feel like we get like a little bit of Thrawn at the end. Okay, there's a striking similarity to Thrawn's theme at the end, and I'll play it in a second. And then it like ends. What did I write here? Tail end of Tarkin challenge. Is this a clone theme? I don't know. It ends with like this cadence or something. It's like kind of, I don't want to say cheesy, but it's like a very definitive like. Dung. Okay, so it goes. And Thrawn's music is right on the organ, basically the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of that, but
interesting.
I will say that like it wasn't like just that progression is so like it just seems so specific to the Thrawn music we hear, and it ends with that like major chord too, like the harmonic 5 or whatever. And that's like
totally.
It was very brief, and I seriously I thought like, oh my gosh, is Thrawn gonna be here? But timeline wise, it would have probably been. Wait, I don't actually know. It would have to be. I don't know if this would have been Thrawn pre-Imperial. It may have been pre-Imperial Thrawn. I don't know. It's all within that same time period. This is like around the time period that Thrawn would be meeting the Emperor, I believe. Yeah, because that happens between Clone Wars and 4. But anyway, I'm just gonna keep it in the back of my mind as a
keep
prediction.
it in the back of your mind. You know that Kevin Kliner's like, when he wrote that, he's like, oh, this is kind of like what I wrote for Thrawn. You don't think any of my viewers are gonna like make that make that connection, do you? Nah, no way. There's something. What's the word? Plotting and insidious about these two characters, right? Thrawn and Tarkin are they're two of the most competent people that have ever worked for the Empire, right?
Yeah.
In terms of in leadership roles, everybody else seems to be like a bumbling moron that's ever in these roles, except for these two characters. And even Tarkin ends up, estimating or underestimating the rebellion. But so it would make sense that there's some type of emotional connection between these two types of figures, right?
Who knows? Maybe we'll get much more later.
I like you're going out there with your prediction, which is we're gonna get some Thrawn. My prediction is there's gonna be a thing with a knife somewhere. That's
okay.
You're putting a little bit more on the line than me right now, and I like it. You're going there.
Well, the point isn't. Well, We should just we'll make a lot of predictions in a second.
We will.
Just like out there, like bingo style, so that like
Totally.
Some of them will be like gimmies, and some of them will be like really unlikely.
I want to see some Thrawn here, so I might join you on that prediction too.
I think let's see, Bad Batch theme when Omega looks at the screen. That was cute. The ambient buzz of the room reminds me of fluorescence at 5440. When they knock toward the end ish, like 1:01:35, when they knock the trooper out, there's like this sort of cheesy major chord cadence.
I noticed that. It's a very happy moment when he punches this guy in the face.
It's just always so funny when there's like a definitive
Yeah.
Okay. Some electronic drums at 1 hour, 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, there's where do I got here? There's this thing going on here, and I'm curious what this is, and I was curious if you knew what this is. And it's this thing that's going on when Crosshair like makes his appearance to the Bad Batch as like an altered version of himself, right? And it's this, right? Or sorry, it's this, the opposite of what I just played, which is. And then.
Do you have a timestamp? I think.
Yeah, this is at 1:03:18. So it's like, and there's like a D drone this whole time. So it's like. And it's really haunting and gorgeous. And I was like, have I heard that somewhere? What is that? Is that going to come back? Yeah, I want to keep an eye out for that, whatever that is, because it was gorgeous.
So it sounds like that was after I wrote down this chord progression that was like repeated over and over. It was like
down to the B flat, right? Or
A minor to A flat major.
A minor to A flat, yeah.
Very specific vibe there. I mean, I predict that we're probably gonna get. I wonder if that's gonna be like a sort of motif, like to get that chord progression. Like it was like an action. It was like when they're in action, and it was kind of like four beats on each one, like really steady. Like, yeah, it was a groove. It was a very specific groove.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's those are the main notes.
And then we have the Death Star sound.
Oh my gosh.
The alarm sound. When the Death Star's like in Return of the Jedi, when the Death Star's about, everything, all hands on deck. It's where Luke is pulling Vader out and the alarm is going on in the background.
Oh.
You've got that same basic sound going on while they're sending off the alarm that the Bad Batch is escaping, which is kind of interesting since maybe that's a sound that's appeared in the prequels before, but I don't remember it. So it kind of makes it feel like, oh, this is an Imperial base now. We've got a pianist in the background. I love it. Love it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. More Imperial. I'm curious. That's the other thing is this whole show is about the transition from the Republic into the Imperial. So I'm very curious that, we're definitely going to see, I imagine, some versions of the ships. In fact, even, by the way, you've seen the trailer?
Now, of this? Or of season, or of episode 2?
Of Bad Batch. You've seen it, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, there's, even Dave Filoni said recently that there's a picture of, in the trailer, you can see that one of the walkers from the Republic, one of the AT big, turtle-looking walkers, right? It used to have, the red stripe on it, right? Or the maroon stripe.
Okay.
normally in the Republic, but it's grayed out. Like they decided designed it so they took away the color to make it more drab and Imperial. And I'm curious how if we're gonna start to hear more Imperial sounds. Like we're gonna start to hear maybe the ship sound more Imperial. We're gonna hear, like I said, that we got the Death Star alarm sound going on. So I'm curious if we're just gonna notice the Republic even sounds more like the Empire in the original trilogy.
Okay, interesting. Okay, we'll have to add that. Before we like recap our music, our like timestamp, like our favorite timestamp of the sound, and then like I don't know, I guess our favorite. I mean, we don't have to. I guess a standout music thing, and then we make our predictions. I do want to like one comment that I got before this stream was, someone said, "I remember thinking, wow, is this still Kevin Kiner composing? He's grown if so." So I mean, I think we both agree that the score is definitely more like developed than the previous things that we've seen, which could be, you know, comment on him, or it could just be like a production, you know, what he was given for time and budget and everything. And then someone else said, I love a Diaz Irae, so that's a prediction. No, I will second that prediction. Someone said, I loved the reprise of Anakin's betrayal that includes the score for Execute Order 66. And I don't actually, when was that? I've just rewatched the scene in the Bad Watch.
I forgot to mention this. I guess I didn't go back and listen to the Revenge of the Sith for Anakin's moments. But I did notice that there are specifically two notes that happen at 7 minutes and like 31 seconds, I think.
Okay.
And I think that's when Order 66 happens. And I went back and watched the Ahsoka moment in season 7, and there's this do do ti ti la that happens. I don't know what key it's in, but it's basically the exact same brass key that happens when Ahsoka's being attacked by Rex and his crew. It's the same. It's the same key as well, happening exactly when I had her name because I actually didn't know her name. Kanan's mentor, Deepa Bilaba, or Depa Bilaba. And when she's getting attacked, same line. But I'm curious if I didn't go and check, because it's essentially, you know, we've seen this. I went back to I did watch the Order 66 sequence, and I didn't notice any similarities from the actual, you know, the montage from Revenge of the Sith where they're going and they're showing everybody getting gunned down, right? I didn't notice any similarities in the music there, but maybe in Anakin's moment might have been definitely something.
So
there.
That was from Clone Wars, like season 5, season 7.
Season 7, right where Ahsoka is getting attacked, right?
That's the finale, right?
Yeah, it's the second to last episode.
Okay.
She's in the elevator and Rex and everybody start gunning her down.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers for season 7 of Clone Wars, everybody.
Luckily, everyone knows that Order 66 is at the ending.
Like, what? The clones are the bad guys now?
At this point, we've now had it in like 3 different media.
Yeah, and there's a Fallen Order scene of
They're
Order
putting
66
it everywhere.
too. Everywhere. We're going to see it from all ends.
It is actually very handy because it's like a timestamp. It's like a reminder of where we are time-wise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the final like comment that I'll share that I'll have to do some studying. I wonder if there will be any musical references to the Dirty Dozen /Seven Samurai /Magnificent Seven. And
I'm gonna throw A-Team in there too.
And A-Team.
In the A-Team. I mean, probably not the music. Like I said, I already think that they're going there with the synth thing, the '80s synth, you know, action cop buddy movie thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely in there. I bet. You know, some of their
I wouldn't
influences.
be surprised to hear musical references to those films.
Yeah. Likewise.
I just am not totally familiar. Like I don't know their soundtracks very well.
Mm-hmm. Likewise.
So yeah, okay. I'm gonna write this down. So pick your favorite sound moment.
Sound moment, not music. Sound moment.
Correct. Sound effect or sound design.
I think my favorite is to hear the Emperor's speech be kind of mimicked, but also kind of brought through the PA speakers of the the Camino facility. I thought that was really cool to see and hear the exact speech happening in that setting.
Okay, that's around 19 minutes.
And yeah, where is that? I have that. Sorry. Okay, 19 minutes. 19 minutes.
Yeah. I was gonna pick the same one.
Oops.
That's okay. But with a different focus. For me, it's like the quality of the reverb I found very interesting. And so, yeah, I guess that's 2 votes. 2 votes for Emperor's Speech.
It's the best one. Then it's very clearly the best one. There's 2 votes.
Emperor's Speech times 2. Okay. That's at 19 minutes.
19 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I can pick something else. I can
No, that's
some
fine.
other stuff. Okay.
That's fine. And now, I guess should we do favorite music? I don't know. We could probably skip that. I'm trying to, because these things will come up so much. It's like it's just too hard to pick favorite music. Maybe
Totally.
we just skip to predictions. Now this is where the fun begins. Predictions and / wish list.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it. Or me first. Who first?
It doesn't matter.
Who talks first? You talk first. I talk first. Let's put a dammer on for y'all. So like these rogue text here.
I know, like I have no idea. Like I'm like, there's.
It's fancy.
It's probably
It's
not
cool.
optimized to put. The screen's probably not optimized to make like a super long list. Where can I squeeze this in? We can just throw them out. So
my prediction is twofold. Okay. I predict that Fennec Shand is going to get her own.
sound predictions, music and sound predictions.
Yes, I mean it's. She's
Fennec
she's
Shand.
in the trailer. She's in the trailer.
Oh. Are you gonna say her own theme?
Yeah, her own theme.
Okay.
And I think that theme is going to be then carried into the Book of Boba Fett for when she's in that.
Oh, that's definitely a double.
And I think I'm going to double down on both of those things. She's going to get her own theme, and then we're going to hear it again.
Okay.
For Book of Boba Fett. That's what I think. I know that's not like next up. Actually, I think I have a prediction that she's in the next episode. So,
Okay.
So that's my guess.
I'm gonna guess minor Yoda theme. Like in Rebels. I'm gonna guess
Oh, okay. I see.
like a ascending violin tremolo thing, which will probably happen multiple times. So that'll be easy to check off the list. I'm okay. I want a definitive plagal cadence.
Ooh.
Like, I just want there to be like a really obvious moment.
Just super churchy. Yeah.
That's fine.
I dig it.
But yeah, I want to hear like a really cheesy, like definitive plagal cadence.
Likewise.
I also on my bingo list, diegetic, something like a diegetic song.
Yeah, I want to hear some new club music from
Yeah.
Kevin Kleiner that sounds a little less appropriate-y than his track record. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So, because they got to go to some hairier areas of the galaxy, so we're gonna see them go to probably some cantina. There's got to be a cantina scene in this show somewhere. So
I'm gonna throw Diaz Irae on this list because that'll
Okay.
definitely happen.
That's a great.
It'll happen
prediction.
a lot. I think new animal noises too.
Ooh.
Okay.
And I guess that prediction that I said earlier was I think we're going to start to hear more original trilogy Imperial sounds that we recognize, I think. Like we might
Can you
even
make
hear
it
a tie.
specific? Okay, tie.
Okay, I think we're going to hear wow, I can't do sounds, but we're going to hear that. The tie sound. And that will be like we're going to see like a Republic, what used to be a Republic cruiser or like a modified version of a Republic cruiser, like that's like getting closer to a TIE fighter or something like that, making that sound. That's my guess.
All right. Anything else?
we're going to keep hearing snare drum a lot with the Bad Batch because that seems to be their other instrument they've got a snare drum thing going on. There's lots of little snare drum marching band style snare drum playing going on, like just in like while they're moving from place to place, etc. It's kind of like their little, their little military music that they keep putting in.
I'm just now. I've done a really crappy job looking at the chat because I just realized I could see it. But Berkey asks, does the show use a full orchestra or a synthesized orchestra? And to be honest, James and I are not sure.
Yeah, we're not sure.
But I guess that I think for episode 1, I'm going to say that they used a live orchestra. Not necessarily in entirety, but I think, yeah, that's what I want to believe.
A big, yeah. And I'm just gonna take the lean in the opposite direction just to make this more of a fun little prediction contest, and say that I think that there's probably unfortunately not a lot to do that. So we'll see who comes out. Let's do a little research and figure that out.
Yeah.
Let's just ask our friends. Hey, did you do that Bad Batch? Did you do that during COVID?
It's possible. Okay, let's see. I think this.
Well, they're going to see what's his name next episode, because they said they're going to J19, which is the Seleucami system, which is where Cut LaQuaine lived in the Clone Wars. That the guy that deserted his post as a clone. So they're either going there or somebody else is there. I gotta go back to that. I don't remember. In making this prediction, I should have gone back and watched that episode to hear that sound. But I imagine there's going to be some references to that episode.
Something from Clone Wars.
Something from Clone Wars.
Cut.
There somewhere.
I don't even know how to spell his name. Cut.
I think it's CUT, and then LaQuaine is like LAWQUANE.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I did look that part up. Yeah,
oh my gosh,
LaQuaine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think there's going to be something to do with his music or his because he lived on like that farm, right, with like those different animals and stuff.
Yeah. I think of that planet as New Zealand, which obviously is incorrect, but
yeah.
I think we're going to hear the.
Oh, we're definitely going to hear that somewhere.
The Obi-Wan Twinkle theme.
Mm-hmm.
Obi-Wan Twinkle. It's the beginning of the Force.
The Obi-Wan Twinkle. That's the name of that theme from.
That is that is what I call it to myself. Like when I'm talking to myself, this is what I call it. This is how I refer to it in my own notes. The Obi-Wan Twinkle.
Oh,
so,
totally is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can keep adding to this list, and maybe for the finale or something. This is when maybe during the finale we'll have to actually do this as bingo.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'd be some fun.
That would be fun.
Who got what?
I'm gonna add a full out 80s synth arpeggio moment, like arpeggiator, full 80s. Like Stranger Things style, like Mandalorian style. You know what I mean?
Totally. Like a driving arpeggiator in the low ranges. Oh yeah. Tron style for sure.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
That is a thing I noticed that there's the episode you're not a big fan of in season 1 of the Mando where it's Bill Burr and they're going through the hallways and everything.
The Twi'lek episode.
Yeah. And there's definitely a corridor moment that reminded me a lot of that episode in this episode where there's like that kind of music, because that's basically like the beats and the synth bass that's going on whenever they're moving from hallway to hallway. Like when the Bad Batch was doing that, there was a lot of that going on, I think. So I think they might boost that presence in this show as well. Like I think I think you're right on with that. That's probably definitely going to happen.
Any other themes?
I think Omega's gonna get like a triumphant version of her theme eventually, like for some big moment that she has.
I feel like her theme already is pretty open.
But like I meant like the whole orchestra like blaring it crazy, and
like
when she
an
does
arrangement, like it's gonna be a
yeah,
okay,
yeah, like
okay.
when she does something particularly heroic and amazing, right?
Okay, so like a really fleshed out, badass.
It's kind of like the Shostakovich symphony when
version.
Stalin was finally dead, and he could play his little secret melody as strong as he possibly could because he could finally be himself. Oof. I think that's going to be Omega's version of that. Yeah.
Okay. I think the last one I'll say is, this is a wish list. I want a moment where like a character is humming something.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anything. It doesn't have to be like a moment where the non-diegetic crosses over to diegetic, but just like I want to hear some casual evidence of the clones or like any character just having a relationship with music that involves humming.
I like that.
A character hums something, anything. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. There we go. I'll write these down in a better place, but I'm gonna keep a running list. So
Awesome.
Are you watching the next episode tonight?
I'm definitely doing the midnight run. Are you doing it?
No, I'm watching it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because I get too excited.
Yeah, I know. I won't spoil it for you.
Thank you.
Unless Thrawn's there, I'm gonna take a picture of him
not,
and send. No, I won't.
I'm not gonna look at any texts.
I'm kidding.
So yeah, I guess. Do you wanna? Can you come back for episode 1, episode 2?
I'm here. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
Just let me know whatever Star Wars t-shirt you're wearing that time, and I'll try to make it match as much as I can.
I'll make sure to not tell you.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you watch this stream or watch it later, because there needs to be more Star Wars music commentary on YouTube, please share your predictions. Share your musical and sound predictions and wish list for the Bad Batch this season. It can be as vague or specific or obvious or really unlikely as you want, because I think it'll be fun. All right, James. Bye.
Bye, Chrysanthe. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.